Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk. What's your thoughts on it?
My initial thoughts, and they still are, is that Usyk will win the fight at some point. I just think if I was one of those two guys going into this fight, I'd want to be Usyk. I think Tyson Fury's ready to go.
But what makes you think that?
Well, look at his last fight, or look at his last couple of fights. Hasn't been that impressive. Tyson Fury doesn't really knock anybody out cold, you know. With the exception, I mean, right, take away the Deontay Wilder, which is a career's best performance for him, right? But anybody else that he's been in with, he doesn't batter them. He doesn't outbox anybody cleanly. I mean, he does a lot of things, but I think a lot of what he does is quite predictable if you know what you're looking at.
I mean, you know, it was, what was it, a couple of fights ago, the Dillian White knockout. I mean, that was spectacular. He landed that uppercut.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're talking about Dillian White, and you're right. I don't think Dillian White he's not in the same level as AJ, not for me personally. Do you see what I mean? And they know each other. They're like friends almost. Do you see what I mean? So he went into that fight full of confidence. He was always going to get him at some point. I think that fight kind of maybe flattered him a little bit.
Oleksandr Usyk, how good is he, Duke? I mean, like, he's come up from cruiserweight. Would you say, like, Evander Holyfield's a great example. He moved up from cruiserweight. You know, he'd done what he'd done in the heavyweights as well, become, you know, undisputed champion as a heavyweight. Yep. Is Oleksandr Usyk as good as him?
I think so. I think he's every bit as good as Holyfield in my eyes. And like you just said, you know, he's come up from cruiserweight, the weight below, up to heavyweight division now. But he's brought his A game with him into the heavyweights. He hasn't slowed down, hasn't bulked up, tried to meet heavyweights on their level in terms of size. People keep talking about how Fury's size is going to make a big impact on this fight. Doesn't work like that. You know that, and I know that. The bigger you are, the easier it is to get hit, right? Tyson Fury doesn't have the greatest stamina in the world. It's not like he can go toe-to-toe for 12 rounds and slug it out for 12 rounds or box and fight for 12 rounds. A lot of what he does a lot of feints, he does a lot of, you know, moving around, moves his head, you know, moves his shoulder. But he's trying to conserve that energy. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Rather than expose that energy. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But Usyk will just be on him for 12 rounds.
How does Fury win the fight? I mean, let's break it down. We'll go for Fury, then we'll move on to Oleksandr Usyk. But how does Fury win the fight? What does he have to do, Duke, to win the fight?
Well, it's quite simple, isn't it? He's got to knock.
Do you think he's got to, like, bully him?
He's got to knock him out. He's got to. But you see, people have tried that before with Usyk. Bigger guys have tried that before with Usyk. And Usyk has this unique way of breaking down the bigger guy's style. Of course, Tyson Fury can win the fight. I'm not saying he's not without a shout, or he doesn't go in there full of confidence, because he will. All I'm saying is he's going to find it very, very awkward to break down Usyk. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. He's so good at what he does, Usyk. You know, Usyk doesn't play around when he gets in there. Everything that he does is strategically planned. You know, the jabs are strategically planned. He doesn't throw a shot unless he thinks it's going to land. He's one of them. He's really, really cute. He's very, very economical, Usyk. So if Fury's going to beat him, then he's got to bully him. You know, he's got to do things in this fight which he's not used to doing, like maybe sticking a nut on him, or even hitting him low, or try and trip him up, you know, and just do a lot of, but he's going to have to be consistent with it, you know, for 12 rounds. I don't know if he's got that consistency in him.
See, I saw weaknesses. I saw vulnerability in Oleksandr Usyk when he boxed Daniel Dubois. We was out there in Poland, and you looked at that, and I go, there was times there, whether it was a low blow or it wasn't a low blow, I didn't think it was a low blow, it went down, but it was times there where he looked very vulnerable to me, Oleksandr Usyk, and like, that's where I saw chinks in the armour. I thought, that's why I think that with the Tyson Fury situation, I go, Fury's one of those guys that he's good at, because now, like he's got later on in his career, he's holding his feet more. He does like to push forward, and he likes to, you know, close space. He doesn't move like he used to move.
He doesn't move
right?
nowhere near.
But I think that might be play into his advantage, Duke, going into this fight, because I think that's how he has to manhandle him. But Usyk, I think, can be ruffled as well. And I think Daniel Dubois exploited that.
I'd be of the opposite opinion in saying as much. For the Dubois fight, didn't get up mentally for the fight. Yeah, probably went into that fight thinking this is going to be an easy.
But did you see vulnerabilities with him there, though?
I don't see it as a vulnerability. You know what it's like. Sometimes you get in there with somebody you know you can beat, you know you can go in and just crush, and then you come down to their level and you fight at their level. You can't raise your game. Next thing you know, you've taken 1 or 2 shots, then you take another shot, and it's hard for you to get back your mentality to raise your game and get back on top of that fight. Do you see what I mean?
But I think with Usyk, I'm using the Dubois fight as an example, because that's where I saw these little chinks in his armour. I go, he didn't like being bullied, he didn't like being manhandled, and there was moments in that fight where Dubois, he looked uncomfortable because Dubois was putting it on him. Now Fury's, to me, is another level again.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that he will use that. Like we saw vulnerabilities to the body as well with Oleksandr Usyk. I think he's got a history of that as well.
Yeah.
I think Fury, that's his game plan. He's going to go out there, he's going to attack the body, and he's going to try and bully him.
Well, he's going to have to, isn't he? If he wants to win this fight, then you have to do things that he's not necessarily used to doing and become a bully, right? I don't know if Tyson Fury's got that mentality, but we're going to find out because
he raises his game though, doesn't he? Like Fury raises his game with different opponents. Like when you see him, he sort of drops down to the opponent's level in many respects. I mean, if you look at the Francis Ngannou fight, you go, that Tyson Fury does not beat Oleksandr Usyk. No. That's a fact, but I think it'll be a different Fury going in. Or was it a case of...
Yeah, I don't know if this isn't the same Tyson Fury that beat Klitschko. This isn't the same Tyson Fury that said 1 or 2, you know, that beat Deontay Wilder. This. I don't think we're looking at the same guy. Do you see what I mean? When you look at Tyson Fury, what I see now is, as you said and rightly said, he's trying to fight at a slower pace now, right? That tells me that his legs aren't as strong as what they used to be. Right. Can't carry all that weight anymore. You can't do the things that he used to do anymore. I mean, I'm not saying he can't win the fight. I'm not saying he doesn't win the fight, because anything can happen in heavyweight boxing. All I'm saying to you is, if I was one of these two guys going into this fight, I'd rather be Usyk than I'd rather be Tyson Fury.
Right. I mean, what do you make of Tyson Fury? Do you think that cut, by the way, was a blessing in disguise for Fury, because he looks in great shape now, right? I mean, that I think that time he started training camp from when he was meant to fight. He picked up the cut a week before the fight or whatever it was, and he's been training consistently since then. But to me, he looks in great shape now, whereas maybe he wasn't going into the first fight. Do you think there's going to be a bonus to him having that extra time?
No, I don't. I don't think there's any good time to get a cut. You know, as an ex-fighter, when you're in camp and you're training for a fight, the last thing you want to do is get that fight postponed. The last thing you want is more time, or need more time to get yourself in shape. You give him the date for a fight.
But he was in bad shape against Ngannou though, weren't he? Like when you see that, you were talking about preparation and not having that fear factor in you and underperforming. I mean, the Ngannou fight, you looked at him and you go, physically, he was out of shape, and you go like, you know, that Tyson Fury.
What? I mean, I don't know what the projected weight for Fury to come in, what weight he's going to come in for this next fight, right? But he's a sort of a 19 stone man, right? He walks in, walks around probably about 24, 22, 3 stone, whatever it is, and fights at 19 stone by the time he gets into the ring, right? So I don't know that that's not gonna help him. I don't see that's gonna help him. I don't know. I don't get a good vibe from Fury going into this. I'd rather fight anybody rather than Oleksandr Usyk. I'd rather fight AJ than Usyk.
What's Usyk's? What are his advantages going into this fight, you think, for Usyk? Do you think it's just the way that he controls the space and utilises the ring the way that he does?
He does. You know what he does? He just does the basic things well. And what I like about him, he's got a very, very economical punch capacity. Doesn't put nothing out that he doesn't think is going to land. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
He won't get in there and start a combination without finishing it. He won't just throw shots in the general direction we hope they're going to land. Everything's pretty much pinpoint. And in his mind's eye, going into this fight, he can't lose because he's got the weight of his nation on his shoulders. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
As well as this fight, which isn't pressure, it's something that he rises to. I don't really know that I see too many flaws in Usyk, because I almost write off the Daniel Dubois fight as much as saying he just didn't get up mentally for the fight. He still won the fight, and I do think that was it was a low blow personally.
Did you think it was a low blow?
I thought it was a low blow personally. Okay. And if I was him, I'd have probably done the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, if you take one low, then you've got to be given time to accountable for that, so you can get over it. And because it's not very nice when you get hit with a low blow. And even if it was only borderline, it still hurts. Yeah. So I just think that Fury, of course, he can win the fight. I don't know if he's going to win the fight, because we're not going to know until fight night. And you know, you talk about you can't keep going up and down in weight. I don't care who you are. You can't keep going up to ballooning in between fights, putting on weight, and then coming back down and expect to get the best out of yourself. At some point, it catches up with you. You know, and I've done it, right? Yeah. I've gone up in weight, and when I've come down again, you're just not the same.